May the evening soothe and welcome you, O travelers from Upper Egypt.
You will travel no further, because you are come. Here, you are at the beginning of time.
Here was conceived and lived the great week of the creation of the world, and the separation of the earth from the waters. You are at the house of the Father.
In this house of the Father, each pharaoh thought of himself as a son, and wished to leave his mark upon it.
Each added, superimposed, overdid, outdid, through a span of 20 centuries.
The result is this fabulous labyrinth of facades and passages, esplanades and corridors, perspectives and detours, to which only priests and pharaoh had access.
Forbidden to common mortals.
The city of God was a fortress where a whole garrison of mystic votaries watched over the great divine scheme of things. Sunrises, eclipses of the moon, dynastic chains, the bark of night, the balms of immortality.
The Father is like unto an aged shepherd. His right hand holds the shepherd's crook that gathers in the dust of the stars. His left hand fondles a wild ram walking with him. He is the God of the first day. It is he who is called Ammon. At the very mention of his name, priests bow the head, and mere mortals prostrate themselves in the dust. Sometimes ram and God blend together, and a curly-browed sphinx can be seen leading the flock, like this one, that the sculptor has fashioned in multiplicity to guard the court of Karnak. Time of its full splendor, this citadel could only be reached by a royal canal and a sacred avenue. The pharaoh, aboard his barge of glory, could moor here, welcomed on the holy quayside in the shade of the sycamores by the pontiff and his numberless retinue of priests with their feather fans.
Do not be overwhelmed by the sheer size of these ruins.
The citadel that arose here was not designed on the scale of men, but on the grand scale of God, from whom all things flowed. The drought and the flood, the granaries and the plagues, dreams and power, death and survival. And if one of you this evening were to voice the question that you are whispering in your house, who art thou, Amun? The answer would seep from these walls, these lintels, these pedestals, these secret chambers, these piled ruins. For the answer is written everywhere in 1,000 different hieroglyphics.
I am the father of fathers, the mother of mothers, and the bull of the 7 celestial kine.
I open my mouth to speak in the midst of silence.
I cause to be that men should have a path on which to tread. I open the eyes of all that they might see. My right eye is the day.
My left eye is the night, and the waters of the Nile spurt from my sandals.
Ammon, the father of all things, had for wife the goddess Mut, who sat a little below him, wearing a royal headdress of vulture feathers. Near to the father and the mother is the son, Khons, standing rigid as a mummy, with a crescent moon picked out upon his oblong head. They made up the Karnak tribe, the Holy Family, for whom, and for 2,000 years, ceaselessly, complex fortifications were built by the hands of men.
Here in this place, I, Seti, built the resting place for the holy monarchs beside the Anna. It is made up of 3 contiguous sandstone chapels. The chapel of Ammon's bark is in the center. The chapel of... Let's listen while to the confused howl of words that seem to steal from these walls, thick with the inscriptions of signatures and prayers. Let's breathe this forest of symbols.
The columns are all inspired by the unrivers of the pipes of the river, which brought to Egypt both its grace and its knowledge. Some of the columns are open, that is to say, their capitals are open, while others are closed, like the flowers in the garden. The hypostyle chamber was built by Seti I between the second and third columns, and he decorated a large part of the walls and columns with reliefs. The decoration was completed by Ramses II, who used not reliefs this time, but something reliefs. This hypostyle chamber is the mother of all the 3 main basilicas which later were inspired by his hands.
The function of this chamber is essentially both religious and enduring. The physical presence of Ammon was there in the form of a statue transported on a bomb. And Pharaoh came here to regenerate his soul, since he reigned over Upper and Lower Egypt, in other words, over the universe.
Set in the rock that reflected the finest firework display of antiquity.
A dazzling gleam that has lasted 20 centuries. As soon as one cluster of stars faded, another pharaoh fired another salvo. And this will be named forever the splendor of Thebes. It has been said that Thebes was the first city, the city of cities. Homer named it the city of 100 gates. For 100 trumpets sounded its fame.
Listen to the sounds of Karnak. The silence was deceptive, since the city for 20 centuries has resounded so much to the sound of song and harp that it was almost alive with music. Naturally, there are the baser tasks of the city, the crowded farmyards, the laden trellises, the papyrus presses, and the nobler tasks, the working of gold and silver, the polishing of the columns, the fashioning of the sandstone blocks.
But above all, there is the fabulous machinery of the universe. For God is in charge and is responsible for the functioning of the world.
Upon the terraces, priests, astronomers, observe the movement of the stars, are responsible for eclipses of the moon and the rising of the sun.
Other wise men, bending over their desks, keep the maps of the empire up to date, and the much more complicated maps of the kingdom of eternity. Watching over the furnaces, others supervised the mysterious metallurgical union of silver and gold into electrum, whose shining plaques would clothe the obelisks. Look now, over the river to the west bank, where the sun sets every evening behind the Valley of the Kings.
It is the shore of the dead, the beginning of the beyond.
If sun lights are still shining in the necropolis, it means that the embalmers are late at their work.
Their patron is Anubis, a somber god who prowls like a black dog around the cemeteries. Their god is Osiris, who knows all the secrets of the resurrection and watches 70 nights over the mummification workshops and the endless swaths of wrappings. We are at the turning point of the 18th and 19th dynasties, more than 3,000 years ago. Before it, every Tutmosis and Amenophis. After it, every Seti and Ramesses. Now, We are at the moment of unbelievable sacrilege and revolution. Amenophis IV changes his name, his god, and his capital.
Above all glories, he set love supreme. And his beloved wife Nefertiti shared his dream of a new faith and a new city.
Ammon no longer existed. Even his name was effaced from the monuments. The new god was called Aton.
The heretical pharaoh took the name of Akhenaton, devoting himself to his new worship, his poems, his prophecies, his new city of El Amarna.
And Karnak seemed to be relegated to the shadows. But the new religion lasted only as long as its inventor. The chisel, ruin, and fire all conspired to obliterate his image.
The new pharaoh was a child.
This child was to restore the ancient worship.
He rekindled 1,000 lamps at the abandoned temples of Karnak. He took the traditional name, and if his earthly life was short, since he died in his adolescence, his posthumous glory eclipses that of all the others, for his name is Tutankhamun.
His makeshift tomb was dug in the very floor of the Valley of the Kings. Over there.
It escaped the looters for 3,000 years. And in 1922, everything was there.
The sarcophagi, one inside the other. The statues, the jewels of gold, the sacred and profane furniture, the alabasters, the porcelains, that prodigious treasure that still draws the crowds, and that mask encrusted with lapis lazuli and cornelian, which stares at us from the depths of the night with the enigmatic smile of an immortal young man.
Let us return for a moment to the distant centuries when the world's first great queen, Hatshepsut, was inspired to dedicate 2 golden obelisks to Ammon. Listen.
Behold, I was sitting in my palace, meditating upon the being who created me, when the voice of my heart spoke, telling me to make 2 golden obelisks for him. My spirit took fire, thinking of what the men who would later see these monuments would say. They would say, "Why this mountain of gold?" But my dream was beyond my power. My 2 obelisks were not of gold, but a single stone, hard granite without a join, and the expedition to bring the stone to me took 7 months. Now the 2 obelisks have been set up. I must finish their dedication. I shall add this. Thinking of future men who will not have seen the realization of my dream of gold. I wish least that they may be able to say this, that my mouth was excellent in the words that issued from it, and that, even in granite, I never went back on my word.
Torn from their native land, today obelisks rise in all the capitals of the modern world. In Rome,